So, we all know Dragon Ball Super's manga introduced a new form for Vegeta, being that of Ultra Ego. And I've done something in the past called What If Isagi Had Ultra Instinct, so I thought to myself, you know what, people have suggested it, I've had friends suggest it, I've had colleagues, why not? Let's do What If Isagi Had Ultra Ego. Yes, it's not going to necessarily be the way that you think it would be in just, normal Dragon Ball. I mean, this is a football anime, so it doesn't really make sense. But with that said, I'm not going to waste much more of your time. Make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. If you're on Spotify, leave a follow and a 5-star rating, because let's get into part 1 of What If Isagi Had Ultra Ego. Let's get it. Isagi Yoichi is a star player on every field he steps on, but his play style is far different than many others. Some call him spectacular, some call him an absolute spectacle to watch, others call him a ball hog, a non-team player, someone that will never work well with other people, but maybe that makes him a great striker. Someone that only cares about his own goals, someone that has an ultra ego, someone that no doubt when he's playing for his high school team seeks out that goal. And it seems that the longer he has the ball in his hands, the better he gets throughout the game. Isagi would be playing against another amazing player by the name of Kira. Kira was a spectacular player, someone that is very, very good, and Japan actually knows this person pretty well. There's some people scattered around Japan that are seen as the next coming of kind of football in Japan. We have now obviously Saitoshi, who's already climbing the ranks and has a break to make his return. We have his little brother, and we have many others that are scattered around Japan that are known to be fierce, not only strikers, but players in general. But Isagi is on a whole nother level. Isagi's way of scoring is intriguing at the very least. Isagi would be racing down the field, ball in hand or ball on foot technically, and he would be dodging in and out of every single person, easily getting by, and it seems like his speed, his strength begins to kind of excel more and more as he continues to hold on to the ball. And after he scores a goal, his very first goal of this game, it seemed as if Isagi's confidence, his ego, his strength, his speed, every aspect of him seems to be heightened even more. And his hunger to reach and get the ball back seems to be something of insane proportions as well. Because Isagi, once the ball is scored and once the ball is put in the possession of the other team, he begins hunting. He begins wanting to get that ball back, and he begins to run around the field like an absolute maniac looking for a steal. And eventually he would find it. He would take the ball himself and even have teammates wide open on the wings, and he would fake passes instead of passing it to them, and he would keep the ball and drive it right into the goal himself once again. Isagi is feeding off of his contact with the ball, feeding off of the fact that he scores goal after goal, and all that happens is he gets better and better. The more he scores, the more he has the ball in his play of hands, the more he has the ball in the vicinity of himself, the stronger, the faster, and the better he gets at the game of football. And it's obvious that there is no stopping him after he gets a full head of steam. There's no way Isagi will be stopped at all. And this game would be over before you even know it. This game against Kira would be just a stepping stone into what Isagi seeks for his football career. Isagi would celebrate with his team, but at the end of the day, he knew that it was all him. His primal urge to more or less excel at this game of football led him to this, and even his coach would call him the biggest egoist he's ever met, someone that has definitely an ultra ego, in which Isagi would shrug, not really minding too much of it, and he would leave home once again to get ready for whatever's to come, being that of nationals and whatever else camps he has to do. But the odd thing is, he would eventually get a letter. This letter would change his life forever, because when he would open it up and look, he would see something that would shock him, and he would see that it's for a camp that seems to be built for strikers. Isagi would take the letter and put it in his pocket, telling his mother that he'll be gone for a while, and he would immediately leave to this camp once given the opportunity. Isagi would arrive at this so-called camp, and this camp would eventually be known as Blue Lock. But the one thing that he was intrigued about is all of the players that are there. Every last striker, every last player, and it feels as if it's a hunting ground to get better, and it's a hunting ground for him to go against every last player that is standing here. Now, with that said, Jinpachi Ego would begin speaking to the large group of people, and he would begin talking about why they're here, what's the goal of this place, and what's going to happen. Jinpachi Ego speaks about what he wants, that he wants a striker that is perfect, a perfect striker for Japan's national team, and he seeks out someone that is the perfect egoist, someone that would have such an ego as a striker that they could lead Japan's national team to the promised land. Now, with that said, Jinpachi Ego would tell them all that this right here, where they stand, is known as Blue Lock. But Blue Lock is a test for all strikers, and if you fail that test, you will be eliminated, and you will never be allowed to be a part of Japan's national team. Now, he tells them all, if they wish to take on this challenge, if they wish to go to the very next level, then they better step through those doors. Before Jinpachi Ego could even finish, he would turn to see that one person is already at those doors walking through, and that was Isagi Yoichi. Isagi would walk in, and many others would take a second, but then follow suit as well. Isagi would walk into the room that he was designated, dressed in the Blue Lock attire, and he would get ready for the first test. Everyone else would walk in, and the first test would be immediately started based on Jinpachi Ego speaking to them through a TV screen. He would tell them that that ball that dropped from the sky would be the ball they use for this test. This is a game of tag, in which they will kick the ball, and whoever gets hit is it, and whoever's it at the end of the timer is eliminated entirely. Ego would tell them good luck, as immediately the timer would begin to tick, and Isagi and everyone would begin to scramble. But Isagi realizes something. Why would he scramble? He might as well put this into his own hands, or more like his own feet. He would immediately walk over toward the ball, taking it, and he would look around. And it's as if his aura alone would terrify everyone. It's an odd feeling at that. They're looking at Isagi, but it feels as if he's no normal person. It's as if he wanted this, the ball in his hands at all times, and it seems as if he feeds off of this, and it's as if he wants to hit somebody real bad. He looks around and he begins to chase people, moving in and out as if he's having fun. He's having fun making fun of his prey as he fakes kick after kick, and they flinch and try to move out of the way, and eventually Isagi would build up enough power where he would kick it at Kira, and he would hit him so hard in the ribs that his ribs would shatter. Isagi would have Kira on the ground, laying there, unable to move, writhing in pain. Isagi would stand there and tell him that he's just too soft, not built enough to live and feed off of what he needs to. He's not fit enough to be a striker, so he should just head out now. In which many of the people there are completely shocked. Even Kunagami would step up and say that that wasn't a very nice thing to do. But how was he even able to kick that hard in the first place? And Isagi would remark that there's no reason for him to worry about that. He should worry about becoming the greatest striker. Stop worrying about everyone else. Worry about yourself. Isagi would watch as Kira just lays there, unable to move, and eventually, well, the clock would tick all the way down, and it would be over. Kira would be eliminated, and the reason for it is because of an injury. That one kick that Isagi did, one kick, because of the fact that he was holding the ball long enough and stored up enough power in his leg, and he kicked it right at Kira, destroying his ribcage. With that said, Isagi watches as Kira is taken away, and as Kira is guided out of Blue Lock finally. And Isagi tells them all that are currently there that they shouldn't take this so lightly, that they should really be thinking as much as possible in regard of, well, winning. Stop worrying about the feelings of other people. Stop worrying about those around them. Worry about what needs to happen for them to win. In which it brings chills down everyone's spines because he seems so cold-blooded, so primitive, so primal. And Isagi makes it known and obvious that, well, he has no friends here. He's here to be the best. He's here to beat the best. And he's here to show that he deserves to be Japan's leading striker on the national team. With all that said, Jinpachi Ego would show up on the screen once again, and he would begin speaking to them all, saying that it was one hell of a spectacle. He never knew someone could kick that hard. But with that said, they got more to do. So he tells them all that the next part of this selection is actually a team-based selection. Isagi would laugh at this and would think that this is ironic, very ironic, thinking that a team of full strikers could work together, but he likes the idea. In which Jinpachi Ego would go on about how football started all based on strikers, that every last person was a striker, so he's sure that if they want to thrive, they want to find their place in this where they stand, well, they'll figure out how to communicate, how to play, and how to be successful as a team of entirely made of strikers. In which Isagi finds this to be a bit entertaining, and he decides that they might as well try their best to figure it out. But Isagi says that if worse comes to worse, just give him the ball and they'll win. In which everybody would kind of be annoyed. They don't really like Isagi, but except for one person, the one by the name of Bachira. Bachira has been listening to the words, the actions that Isagi speaks, and he can tell that there is not only a monster that trails Isagi, there's far more than just that. Isagi is the monster that he's been hunting, seeking, and wanting to play with, and he's excited to feed the monster as much as possible. Isagi would await to the first game, and that first game would be against Team X, and Team X would even have a monstrous being on their side of the field as well, but uncoordination would normally be the downfall of certain teams, but it seems like uncoordination would benefit Team X. At least that's what they thought originally. Because once they all try to fight over the ball, they all try to get the ball themselves, because they know if they score goals, they can be safe in the next round, even if their team loses. But when the ball would pop up and land in the lap of Shohei Bado, well, Bado would take off, thinking that the goal was imminent. He would easily get by this guy right here, right? Isagi would smirk as Bado would come toward him, and Bado would feel something he's never felt before, and that's doubt. Isagi would stand there in front of him. As he would try to flip the ball over him, Isagi would jump up higher than Bado could even expect, as Isagi would header it away from him and take the ball himself, nutmegging, dodging, juking, and just splitting the defense entirely. And his whole team would watch as he does this, and it would be a spectacle. It's as if He is feeding off of the people around him, and he's hunting for that goal. Even the goalie stands there ready to block the shot, but as the ball gets kicked directly at him, he would cower and move out of the way, as the ball itself would land in the back of the net, so powerful that it looked like it could have just threaded through the back of the net itself. Isagi would tell his team that if they want to win, feed him more, in which everyone would stand there in complete shock, except for Bachira. Bachira would laugh at this, and he would begin to get excited, saying that it's time to feed the monster. Why not? This should be fun. Isagi and his team would thrive off the chaos that Isagi is creating. Isagi would run around like a madman, as if he never gets tired, and he would immediately disrupt and just absolutely just destroy every bit of coordination that the other team tries to maintain. Shohei is a null factor. I mean, normally he's really impossible to guard to a certain extent, but right now he's as if he's just a little tiny puppy in the den of wolves. Shohei would get the ball stolen from him over and over again, and Bachira, every time he has the ball, would pass it up to the monster that is running down the sidelines, Isagi. Bachira would give him the ball over and over and over again, and he would smile as he watches Isagi destroy Team X on his own. And it seems like he's only getting better. He's only getting better throughout this entire game. In the beginning, he was good, but now he's great. And at the end of the game, he would be the best. Isagi would score goal after goal after goal after goal, racking up an utmost of 8 goals in one game. It would be insane what he was able to do, insane what he was able or was capable of, and he just demolished the team in front of him. After the game is over, Isagi would actually buy everyone food, actually having kind of like a gourmet feast because of how many goals he scored, and he made sure to treat everyone properly. They would all think that this is kind of out of character, but Isagi says that off the field, he will treat them with respect. They are his teammates. But when it comes to football, when it comes to them on the field game planning, they better get him the damn ball, unless they want to lose. Because at the end of the day, they're not scoring 8 goals in the next 3 games. No one person will. Good luck trying. Because guess what? Even if they end up losing, he'll go on through. But he tells them to not worry, because as long as they get him the ball, they won't lose. And at the end of the day, he doesn't like losing. So he'll make sure that they win every last game. And even after having a gourmet meal, a nice time, and some game planning, the game plan would be simple. The game plan would be the simplest thing you could think of. That's get Isagi the ball. Get him open, feed him, and let him take over the game. Now, the next game against Team Y would be a bit of a hitch in this plan, because they love their play of keep away, but Nico to Okawa would be something that Isagi would be wanting to wait for, because he was going hunting for the ball that they were trying to play keep away with. Isagi would sprint around the field, building up as much, more or less, energy as possible. That's a good way of looking at it. Isagi, the more he plays, the more he has the ball in his hand, the stronger and faster and better he gets. But the fact is, when he's hunting for the ball is a different deal in itself. Isagi looks to cut off the passes to Okawa, and eventually he would get the ball. And once the ball would be in his capable hands, it would be over. Isagi would look down the field, pass it up to Bachira, as Bachira would pass it back almost immediately. He would build up more and more speed and strength as he races down the field, juking and dodging every last person, and he would score a goal. And he would tell them that's just one of many, as he taunts Nico and Okawa, telling them that their little simplistic way of playing this game is boring and useless, because they will never be the best, because he is the best. because Isagi Yoichi is the best. They would try their best to keep the ball away, but at this point Isagi's too fast. He would hunt the ball down like a starving wolf, and he would get it for himself, as if Bachira wasn't setting him up, he would set himself up for goals that not even the goalies want to stop. The ball is traveling at such a speed that would terrify any human goalie from stopping it. They feel that it could tear them in half, and they've heard rumors that the other guy that got expelled or got kicked out from their team was someone that was injured brutally by a kick of a football. Now that is something they don't want to play games with, and even the goalie starts playing out of the goal, not wanting, well, that smoke, not wanting anything to happen to his well-being. But eventually the game would follow suit. The game would go in favor of Isagi Yoichi and Team Z. 2 games down and 2 more to go. And this is the power and strength of the football player Isagi Yoichi and his ability of Ultra Ego. Isagi Yoichi has already taken down 2 teams back to back, being that of Team X and Team Y has fallen victim to Isagi and his non-stop and relentless playstyle. And Team Z, well, it's pretty obvious that, at least to an extent, they're buying in. Or at least they believe that Isagi really is as good as he says he is. Because he just showed why he's levels above. Plus, someone like him, he's getting so many goals and so many points that he's able to get some food for his team, and he gets some of the best food you possibly could see. So their little meals and their little celebrations are extremely nice and extremely good. Isagi tells them that if they want to keep having some good food and so on, well, keep feeding him the ball, keep feeding him the goals, and he'll give him just that. Even Bachira has a quite bit of amount of points, and the main reason for it is because of how many assists he actually has to Isagi himself, because he loves feeding the monster that is racing down the field. And Isagi just tells them all that there's no way that they're going to lose. In which, that is the truth beyond this. I mean, I hate to say that, but the Wanama twins and even Team V will most likely not stand a chance. But still, even with that said, there's some things to be said. The team that has the Wanama twins, well, they, let's just say, are a bit of a work of art, and that's saying it nicely. Isagi can tell that the Wanama twins are cocky, egotistical, and frankly he likes that in somebody, but they also make fun of someone that is in a way less fortunate, someone that has been injured, in that being Chigiri, in which he doesn't like that at all. He finds that is very, very kind of disgusting in a way. He thinks it's just so dumb that these kids are making fun of someone that got injured. Like, don't get me wrong, Isagi is no perfect guy. Like, he's not nice by any means. But the fact that you make fun of someone because of an injury, something they really can't control at the end of the day, it's kind of stupid. And Isagi is not okay with that. So he tries to basically convince Chigiri throughout this game to unlock and play how he used to play, be the player he used to be, and maybe Isagi would even take a small backseat so that he can become that. But Chigiri would of course hesitate. He doesn't really want to, but Isagi tells him that he might as well, because there is no just running away from football anymore, because he's guaranteed going on to the next selection. So you might as well just get on with it. You might as well just do how you used to do. And Isagi makes this abundantly clear, because there's no way they're going to lose. He's going to make sure that they win every game. And even during this game, while speaking to Chigiri, he scores multiple goals. He'll tell him this over the course of basically just scoring each goal. And Chiguri would kind of be taken back by this. Like, this is insane how much Isagi can do in a matter of like minutes. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. He's an absolute monster on the field, scoring goal after goal, and frankly, draining the life out of the other team. Chiguri would begin running and racing down the field, eventually showing off the speed that Isagi wanted to see, and frankly, this made Isagi pretty impressed. Kid's fast, extremely fast, and it seems like his ego is just as high as anyone else's, and it seems like his capabilities is just as high as anyone else's, but not as good as Isagi, of course. Chiguri would find goals for himself, and frankly, the dismantle of the Wanama twins was apparent. It was just absolutely freakish how badly they beat down the Wanama twins and his team of Team W. But really, the next game is kind of where everything is at. Isagi knows that they're going on to the next game or the next selection, basically unscratched. I mean, it was a pretty easy first selection, and Isagi makes that pretty clear to everybody that it was pretty simple and pretty easy. And he brings up that they don't even need this next game at all for it to even matter. But he says that at least maybe some of them could get some goals, because he doesn't really care that much since they're already going on to the next round. And he assumes that they won't be doing that much of this team stuff, at least in the near future. In which, in a way, he would be pretty wrong about. But Isagi would want the feeling of kind of being on his own. He's kind of bored of this team play stuff. He already has to do it so much in high school. He just doesn't like working with a team that much in general, but still, whatever. He basically tells them that they can take the forefront for this last game, and this game would be against Team V, in which them taking the forefront would eventually lead to their team falling just a little bit behind. Isagi would realize this and would start picking up the pace himself, because as much as he knows they will go through to the next round basically guaranteed, or the next selection guaranteed, he doesn't necessarily even want to lose to these people. He doesn't know who they are, and he feels that they're nowhere near as good as them or as good as him. So he decides that he's going to turn up the ante to a high degree. And frankly, that's just when it's over. Even the skill of Nagi, the passing and the speed of Zentetsu, and the passing of Reo, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. And it seems as if they fall behind. Isagi would put them ahead exactly where he needs them to be, and he would show what the levels are in terms of how good at football he really is. And they were able to kind of squeak out the match, and it's squeak out because normally they win by like eight goals, but they only win by about 1 or 2 goals this game, this time around. And Isagi more or less just shows, and it kind of in a way proves how much better he is than most of the people there, and frankly that they need him to play the style of football that he's been playing if they want to go as far as they really should be going. Now, with all that said, Isagi would kind of celebrate with his team. I mean, there's no reason not to, right? So he would celebrate with his team of just how good they did and what type of kind of progress they've made, because his team is a lot better at the end of the day. It's just, they're not as good as him, as always. But Isagi would celebrate with them. They would have a good time, and so on and so forth. And of course, this would be fantastic in terms of getting good food and enjoyment. But now it's time for the next part of the next selection, and Jinpachi Ego would speak to all of them. They would have a conversation or they wouldn't necessarily talk to Jinpachi Ego personally, but they would have a conversation to a degree with Jinpachi Ego, and he would speak about more or less what's going to happen next. First off, there's some training, and they all start with this training or so-called training, and Frankly, it's a pretty basic just workout and just train and try to get your body completely where it's supposed to be type of training. And it goes pretty well for every single person there, including Isagi. And Isagi doesn't even necessarily need it, at least not to the degree that many others need it. But still, it's a good thing to do because, I mean, it results in a pretty strong Isagi at the end of the day. And with all that already said and done, Isagi would be excited and ready to get on to the next selection, because the next selection would be one that is a little bit different than the one obviously now. The next selection is actually involving one holographic goalkeeper, Blue Lock Man. And this is a little confusing because, like, what is this thing? I mean, how does this thing even work, and how does it even develop? I mean, how does a hologram, actually touch a football or a ball in general? How does a hologram touch anything? So it is a bit confusing, but Isagi would see the ball drop from the sky, and basically it would be explained that he needs to score 90 goals in 100 minutes, and he thinks this is pretty easy. And we all know the way Isagi plays the game, it is going to be pretty easy. Because at the end of the day, the more goals he scores, the better, the faster, and the more crazy he gets. So when he starts scoring goal after goal after goal on Blue Lock Man, well, let's just say the room itself begins to kind of break apart a little bit. We're talking 90 goals. We're talking that's a lot of time for Isagi to get more and more powerful. And even Blue Lock Man is kind of malfunctioning, only just standing still as Isagi is hurling these balls through the goal, through the net, and easily doing it too. It's as if the ball isn't even moving. It's like if it's teleporting. It's like from his foot to the goal in an instant. Everybody, or basically the people watching this, being that of Jinpachi Ego, and actually some other people as well, kind of trying to get a feel for what the hell Blue Lock is. They see this happening and they're kind of tripped out by it. How is he even doing this? I mean, even a grown man, someone that has an insane, even Noel Noah, someone like that, can't even shoot goals like this. And, well, Jinpachi Ego would just be smirking, knowing that this kid is special. This kid is a different breed. He's just completely a different type of player. And it seems like whatever is deep within him, whatever that kind of ultra ego side of him is causing his body to do, it's gonna benefit them greatly. Because let's be honest, if they go against someone that isn't a holographic thing, well, it's gonna be so easy for him to score goals against a normal person. No goalie in the world is going to be able to stop Isagi. He is a freight train that does not stop, a freight train that goes in a straight line and nothing can brace for impact. Isagi would defeat Blue Lock Man, and he would do it in record time, leaving and being the first person out in the lobby area for the next part of the second selection. He would be awaiting just whatever's to come, and more specifically, waiting for people to arrive. And eventually, well, someone would arrive, being that of Rin Itoshi, and Isagi would see him and even know exactly who he is, and he would call him the little brother of Saitoshi, in which Rin would tell him to not call him that, and Rin would know who Isagi is as well. Let's make it clear, Isagi is pretty decently known overall. I mean, he is a talented player, and everybody kind of has a gist of who he is, and Blue Lock itself has just shown more of what he's capable of. In terms of outside of Blue Lock, people know him from just the spectacular things he was able to do in the over a course of time. But Rin would tell him that he's no little brother of Saitoshi, that he's going to be better than his brother, and so on and so forth. But Isagi would laugh at him, saying that Sai is a prodigy, someone that is extremely talented. But here's the thing, well, he decided, or it seems he decided, that he wanted to be the best at something else. He couldn't be a striker, he couldn't cut it out. So how would little brother be able to do better than his big brother? Isagi would mock him slightly and would tell him that he's just not what he's supposed to be. He's not up to par what he needs to be, and he's never going to be as good as his big brother. And I mean, come on, his big brother is levels above everyone, right? Isagi would kind of be making fun of Rin to a certain extent, and Rin would just stare at him with a death stare, and Isagi would tell him that he doesn't want to do anything about what he's thinking at the moment, because it all ends bad for him in every single way. In which Rin would just be frustrated as he waits for other people to arrive, and when two other people by the name of Aru and Tokumitsu would enter, they would immediately leave, because Rin would drag them along and tell Isagi that he'll see him on the other side and to be ready, because he's going to beat him senseless. And in which Isagi just continues to laugh, and as his laughter would fade out, Rin would walk away and walk through those doors. Isagi would await for the arrival of Bachira, just at least Bachira more specifically, because he wants to play with him. I mean, that is his other monster, and he knows how talented Bachira really is. So he adds Bachira to his team, but now it's really a matter of who does he put on his team now? Who's the next player? Isagi finds that everyone else is kind of boring. I mean, let's be honest, he can add Chigori, but I mean, that's a little boring. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, he could add Kunigami, he's pretty good, but he might not be able to cut it. And in which Isagi just thinks to himself that, I mean, necessarily it doesn't matter who he adds to the team, but everyone's so boring. Everyone is literally so boring. But eventually someone else would arrive, someone else would show a face, and Isagi would look at him. Now he's interesting. In which Bachira would be confused, asking what he's talking about, and he would point at the guy once again, and he would point at him and say, look at him. He's like a little demon. In which Isagi would laugh a little bit, but then the boy would walk up and ask what he's laughing about and would try to kick Isagi in the face. Isagi would grab it with his left hand and tell him to calm down, like relax. And Isagi would ask if he wants to join their team. He looks pretty interesting, it looks fun to play with, so why not? Isagi wants to broaden his horizons. In which Bachira would shrug and would just agree with it, and well, the person there standing in front of him would agree and would say that, you know what, let's do it, why not? And Isagi would laugh a little bit and would put his hand out to greet the guy, as he would grip, or they would grip each other's hands pretty tightly. And Isagi would introduce himself, Isagi Yoichi, and well, the one in front of him would introduce himself as Shido. Shido, Isagi, and Bachira. They go through those doors together, and the team on the other side waiting is Rin, Aru, and Tokumitsu. And Isagi, well, he wants to take on them right now. And he tells Shido that he can tell that he has a big chip on his shoulder. He can tell that he wants the ball as much as he does. He can tell when someone's primal urges to take over a game are flooding the area, flooding the scent around them. He can tell the type of player Shido is. Shido would look at him with a slight smirk and would say that maybe he does think a little bit higher of Isagi now that he's saying that, but as long as they properly share the ball, they'll be alright. Isagi laughs a little bit and says that if it comes down to it, he'll hold the ball the entire time, as long as they win. In which an agreement is made, and Bachira kind of just stands there, just enjoying the show, just enjoying these two absolute monsters, let's be honest, a demon and what seems to be some sort of destruction god of soccer, just standing in front of him. Now with that said, the game against Rin will be upon them, but that is for the next part of What If Isagi Had Ultra Ego. Isagi, Bachira, and Shido would take on the team of Rin, Aru, and Tokumitsu. But this game would change the landscape of Blue Lock forever. Because what Isagi didn't even know what he was doing at this moment, what he was just introducing someone to his team that would change Blue Lock forever. because once they stepped on that field, it was as if Bachira had two absolute monsters. It seemed like he had a demon on one side and a god on another. Isagi would race down the field with the ball, and immediately it would be obvious that it's hard for the other team to keep up with him, especially with a short field. He maintains the ball for as long as possible, right until he gets near the box. But as he approaches, he sees Shido streaking across the field as he taps the ball beautifully, and this ball is just put up midair, and Shido comes out of nowhere to kick the ball in without any hesitation at all. Isagi doesn't normally like passing, but when he sees someone like that, the way Shido plays, he respects it. He plays the game of football gritty, as if he wants every goal for himself, and he tells Shido that they're gonna have to share because Isagi wants his goals as well. Shido would smirk and laugh a little bit as he looks at Bachira and looks back at Isagi, and he nods his head. As they run back, Shido is impressed in his own way at the fact that Isagi plays the way he does. It's as if Isagi plays very animalistic, as if he plays based off of pure instincts and also has a massive ego on top of it. Isagi is an absolute primal type of player. He thrives off of his normal instincts on a football field, and he devours the entirety of the competition. It's easy for him, and with Shido on his team, it seems like it's going to be even easier. And that's just the fact of the matter. When they go on defense, it's as if Shido and Isagi are just absolutely swarming. They are a kind of like a duo of rabid dogs that are hunting for the ball, maybe even wolves that are just hunting for the ball. The pressure is insane, and it seems like they don't even ever get tired. It's just pressure, 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 pressure. And Bachira, once he gets a chance to have the ball in his hands, or, well, in his feet, he would easily set up a beautiful pass to Isagi, as Isagi would take it up the field, and it's as if his speed, his strength, and everything accelerates entirely, and he scores a massive goal. And it seems like Blue Lock Man doesn't even compute it and stands still as the goal sails through the goal. Or as the ball sails through the goal. And Rin's team would be confused and remark that he must be broken, but Isagi says that he's not broken. He's just kicking it far faster than he can even recognize. Even a machine can't know the true capabilities of the god of soccer, in which he would laugh about it. He would laugh in the face of Rin and his team, and Shido would just be even more impressed with the way Isagi approaches this scenario and honestly holds himself in general. Goal after goal would be scored. Rin would have no way of reading the movements of Isagi and Shido, them being extremely unorthodox and Isagi being straight up just a physical freak, someone that is getting faster and stronger as the farther and longer they play. It's as if it's just not fair. The game would be over very quickly, and Isagi would tell Rin that he can join their team, but he's gonna have to be their little facilitator, and he's gonna have to earn his spot as well, because there's no point of him having the ball if he's just going to choke like he did this game. And well, they kind of make fun of him, ironically enough, talking about how he basically didn't do anything, and all he did was fall behind. Rin really has no standing on this team, but they would tell Rin that he can, facilitate, help out from here and there. And let's just say the next game that they play again, they're 4 versus 4 with a team of Shido, Rin, Isagi, and Bachira. There is no stopping them. I mean, they'd probably play a team that might consist of Nagi, Reo, maybe Zentetsu, and one other player like maybe Chiguri or something like that. But come on, that game isn't fair. It's not even close to being fair. especially with Rin on his team. Of course, Rin and Shido are not very compatible, not really at all, but Isagi and Shido are very compatible. And as long as Rin leans into the side of Isagi, who is pretty compatible to, well, Rin himself, because Isagi is a ton of off-ball movement, and as long as he has the ball in his hands, at least racing down the field, his power and strength continue to climb higher and higher. He can pass the ball up, if he so chooses, of course, but it doesn't affect him passing the ball up. Shido needs it in one specific spot. Isagi can have it anywhere on the field, and it doesn't matter to him. His ultra ego, though, makes it so he really wants the ball in his hands, so, you know, he'd prefer it to be in his hands, but as long as the end goal all leads through him, he doesn't really care at the end of the day. Isagi, Rin, Shido, and Bachira would show their capabilities in their match against Nagi's and Tetsu, Reo, and probably Chiguri, and their capabilities are off the charts. It's not even fair. Frankly, Bachira would even get some time himself to learn some new dribbling techniques and even take some inspiration from his good old monster Isagi. And, well, let's just say they have a lot of fun in this game because it's just a playground for an absolute beatdown. And really, the game that Isagi would want so badly, the challenge he wants so badly, would come the game after. The game after would be against the World 5. Now this right here is the game he's been searching for. The game he's been hunting for. 5 of the best players in the world. But he gets to take them on with Rin, Shido, Bachira, and Nagi. Now that is insane. This team is insane. And frankly, this team would go head to head with the World 5, and they would show how good they truly are. Because Isagi realizes that if this game draws out longer and longer, the higher the chance he can win it. The very first goal would run through Rin and Isagi. Isagi eventually ending with the ball, but he would soon realize that the speed, the strength, and so forth of this team of the World 5 is so much so that he needs to overcome. He needs to not only overcome for himself, but also overcome for his team. And that's exactly what he's going to try to do. And Isagi begins to race down the field, taking the ball himself, trying to score goals, and also playing defense. And in this activity, in this active defense, while this World 5 tries to strike down the field, well, Isagi is only getting better. And he would score multiple goals, and he would make the World 5 sweat just a little bit. What is happening? How is this kid doing this? He's just a kid. But Isagi doesn't see it this way. Isagi tells them that he is the god of this field, and he's proving that right now. Now, with that said, the World 5 would still end up winning this match, but Isagi would put up a fight like no other, and frankly would put them in a place where they would be even questioning how good they are, because Isagi seems to be far better than them. And if they had even 2 of himself, well, I mean, this game could have went a lot differently. Isagi would thank them for their, for kind of working together and also playing against each other, but would say, hey, he's going to get them next time, and he's going to make sure that he wins next time. He tells them all that they weren't as good as he thought that he was, and frankly, he looks at every single person's specialty from speed to strength to dribbling to so on and so forth, and says that, well, they're just not as good as he thought. they're just not as good as he thought they were, especially at their innate skills. The game would be over, and the game would probably end about 5-3, or maybe a 5-4, but of course, the World 5 would still win relatively comfortably. Yes, the goals might seem like a lot, but the World 5, if they work together properly, they will definitely be able to get a stop, and once they get that stop in possession and get possession of the ball, then it's practically over. But with all that said, Isagi's team would go on, and the second selection would be finished up, because now there's even more to be done. The next selection, or well, the next part that they're going to do of Blue Lock actually has a lot to do with Japan's U20 team. It's said that Blue Lock will be shut down if Blue Lock doesn't take down Japan's U20 team. So Jinpachi Ego, when everyone is done with the second selection, he tells them all exactly the situation and what they have to do to make up for it. And basically what they have to do to make sure that they're capable of not only taking down Japan's U20 team, but also, well, keeping Blue Lock alive. And also their dream alive of being the greatest striker in Japan and also in the world. Now with that said, Jinpachi Ego would tell them all that he's truly going to create them into the polished gems that he so sought for immediately when Blue Lock was made and was instated. But with that said, that is where this story will end, at least for now. Maybe in the future we'll pick it back up, but Isagi is something else. Isagi may be the true god of soccer or football, maybe the god of destruction of football itself. Someone that will eclipse and absolutely evolve past every player he steps in front of. But with that said, and like I said, if you enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope all of y'all have an amazing day. Later.